when I first started, just like any YouTube video I could find, like of anything, like of a new skill or a new trick or piece of vocabulary, like I was doing that. And then really back then, there wasn't a ton of like what I do, which is aerial dance. There was circus and there's dance, but there's not really the fusion of it together.
When Fallon was 3 years old, her mom caught her hanging off the third floor balcony. 37 years later, you'll still find her swinging from the ceiling. She is a proud Colorado native and has been involved in gymnastics and dance since early childhood. Fallon was introduced to aerial dance in 2010 and instantly fell in love with the art form. In 2018, she founded In the Wings, an aerial dance company that fuses traditional aerial arts with technical dance seamlessly. Her mission is to create community through this exciting art form and does so by teaching classes, hosting parties, and performing at public and private events featuring aerial bartending. Thank you so much for being here today, Fallon. It is such a pleasure to have you. And I would love for you to just dive into your journey, how you got here today.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. How did I get here today? Well, I'm a child of the 80s and I've always been a mover. So my mom got me into ballet when I was 2 and I got bored and I hated it. And then when after she caught me climbing over a third floor balcony, she popped me into gymnastics. And that was a good spot for me. Became a competitive gymnast and was injured by the time I was 14 because that's what happens to several gymnasts, and started finding my way into other sports. I did, swimming and diving for a while, and then finally found my way back into dance. I think I've always really been a dancer at heart, even though I hated ballet and I still hate ballet.
Interesting.
But I started doing modern dance and jazz and doing the ballet when necessary. And in 2010, I found aerial dance. And it was perfect for me because it combines kind of the athleticism, not that dance is not athletic, but that athletic and flipping of gymnastics and the artistry of dance. It also got rid of, for me, the part of dance that I hated, which was that kind of cattiness and the judging that can kind of happen in some studios. I think it's slowly starting to fade out and fade away as our culture changes. But when I was big in it, it was very much like that. But having circus roots, it was always very inclusive. Like every body is welcome, no matter your shape or size. And I've really like clung to that in my journey in welcoming everybody into our community. So yeah, so I started doing aerial dance in 2010 and then quickly started performing and got internships and worked as assistant directors in local companies, and then decided it was time to do my own. So in 2018, I started In the Wings, and we had our first show on International Women's Day of 2019, the show celebrating women. And then COVID happened. So live shows went away, and we started focusing on virtual shows. We started focusing on teaching classes, and we started doing events once the world started opening back up. So, and that brings us to today.
I love it. Well, not that you had experience COVID and all of those things, but with the business aspect, because of course all of us were exposed to COVID in different capacities, directly or indirectly. But I love that you really used dance to transform your life and being able to bring that into events and in person. And you really got creative when COVID did happen to go virtual, to do the things that were going to help people still be connected, even though you weren't in person. And I'm really curious because I was a former gymnast and cheerleader, but I know it's a little different. And when you were talking about that cattiness, and I'm so glad the culture is changing because I experienced that in the cheerleading world as well. It's not always rainbows and sunshine.
Yes, yes.
But I'm really curious what or how this particular dance really influenced your life, aerial dance.
Mm, gosh. I mean, it was like coming home, I think, is the best way I could describe it. It just felt like it was something I was meant to be doing, and I was hungry and I couldn't get enough of it. And I just kept like soaking it up. And I remember, like, especially when I started, it's changed, 14 years in. But when I first started, just like any YouTube video I could find, like of anything, like of a new skill or a new trick or piece of vocabulary, like I was doing that. And then really back then, there wasn't a ton of like what I do, which is aerial dance, there was circus and there was dance, but there was not really the fusion of it together. So it felt like it was like, oh, well, I could do this. I could make them be like happy little friends together.
Yes, I love it. And it's just using your creativity. And I know there's a lot of passion just when you talk about it. When we first met, you were talking about it, you lit up, and I was like, I need to talk to Fallon. That was my initial thought because your passion was just so contagious. But I'm curious, was there a memorable moment or experience that really solidified this passion for this type of dance?
Hmm. You know, actually, it was pretty like new to it. It was back in probably 2011. I think I did this piece with a friend. At the time, I was in nursing school and I was in my OB rotation. And in one of my clinicals, I had taken care of a stillborn baby and had so many feelings about that, all this grief and emotions wrapped up in that, and trying to find a way to process that. My friend had been going through her own form of grief at the same time, and we decided, you know, what better way to express this than through our art. So we created a duet on the trapeze that kind of explored the stages of grief and letting go. And I remember like not being able to work through this grief. And after the first night of the show, like just being so in it and just like at the end of the piece, I drop her and I kind of saw her as being like my grief. And I literally would drop her. That was choreographed on purpose. She was okay with it. On the stage, and I felt like I just let it go, and I walked off the stage like feeling like I did it. I let it go. And the next night, people said it looked like I was more in the performance than the first night, but I wasn't feeling anything at that point. My body was just doing it. And I was like, yeah, okay, here we are.
I believe that. You know, it's so crazy because I'm not a dancer whatsoever. Like, even choreograph, I'm like, put me in the back. But I think there's so much when it comes to movement in any capacity, but especially dance. Like, when I watch dancers, I'm just like so amazed by the movement and everything. And I feel like it is really telling a story. And you just outlined that so beautifully of just the grief that you let go. And of course, you talked about it, you choreographed everything, but being able to really, I was just visualizing that what you had done on stage and being able to release that, because a lot of times we might not have the words, but we can use movement to really facilitate that. And I know you have a background in nursing as well, but I'm curious, what inspired you to even start in the wings?
Yeah, I think it was nobody was creating the work that I wanted to do
Yeah.
because we started with just performances, and my intention was to just do performances, and things change as you own a business, as you know. But yeah, I think like all the companies I had been with, I liked what they were doing, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. And I had some opportunities to create some small things, but it was always within certain parameters, which as a choreographer can be really fantastic exercise. And also sometimes you want to just create what you want to create. So I think that was like the catalyst was to do that, to do what I wanted to do.
Yes, I feel like that's what why a lot of us start, right? We want to be able to have no, like, not be put in a box essentially, and be able to think outside the box and be able to do what we want to do. And as you started to build in the wings, what were some of the challenges that you've had to face?
Well,
Maybe one or two, you know?
there's a few. I mean, besides like COVID, you know, and when you're doing live performances, we had talked prior to COVID about doing virtual performances so that like our friends and family across the country could still like see what we were doing. And then COVID just forced us to do that. But it's been difficult. I think people who own small businesses know that that first 5 years is like the hardest time. And in the first like 2 years is when like COVID hit. So I just feel like, yeah, that may have been like the hardest thing is like working our way back through that and like the struggles of like once the world started opening again, but we were still social distancing and trying to figure out how to navigate seating at shows. And then it didn't matter because nobody was coming anyways because they were still scared to get out, as well as like marketing has been typically difficult. It's in a way it's an easy thing to market when I can talk to people, but when it comes to like social media or advertising, people don't really understand what it is that we do, and it's hard to get it out there. And Meta doesn't like me talking about shows. It suppresses it. Any events it doesn't want me to talk about.
Why do you think that is?
I have no idea. And I will talk about other people's shows and it will suppress it. It's anytime I'm trying to promote like anything, even if I pay for it, even I pay for an ad, it doesn't get pushed. I don't know. We're still working on it.
Hopefully gets pushed up so people can hear about it. So can you
Mhm.
explain a little bit? I know you kind of talked about the synergy of like circus and dance and like how it kind of looks, but what is aerial dance? So people
Mhm.
listening can really know what it is if they don't or have never heard of it before.
Yeah. So my kind of like, elevator pitch is that it's anything that you would go to Cirque du Soleil to the circus that they do hanging in the air. So we have silks and trapeze and hoops and anything that's hung from the ceiling, we dance on and in, combined with traditional ground dance like ballet and modern and jazz and hip hop and any of the contemporary dances. And we try to fuse it together seamlessly. So yeah, aerial dance actually has roots in modern dance. If you trace back the lineage of it, it comes from modern dance. I believe it was Terry Sendgraf who was kind of coined the mother of aerial dance, who decided to hang a trapeze and use it in her modern dance studio and didn't come from the circus. And then she passed that down through some of my mentors, Susan Murphy and Nancy Smith, who is actually also in Boulder. And yeah, that lineage has passed down. So it's actually not from the circus, it's from dance. But over time, kind of the lines have blurred and grayed. And yeah,
Hmm, just learned
so.
something new.
Mhm.
I did not know that. I really didn't. And I love that you do have these events and also virtual aspects and different capacities so people can really reach and connect. And I know you're really big about community. And I'm curious, what do you believe that community, how it plays a role in your mission, and how do you foster that through aerial dance? Today's episode is sponsored by the Start Here Conference.
Hey there, fabulous folks. Welcome to the Start Here Conference, where the fun begins and success stories unfold.
Yep, you heard it right. We're here to kickstart your journey with a big dose of energy and a sprinkle of magic.
Picture this, a place where inspiration flows, connections bloom, and dreams take flight.
At Start Here, we're all about keeping it real and having a blast while doing it.
No stuffy suits or boring speeches here, just good vibes and endless possibilities.
So whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur or just dipping your toes in the water, there's something here for everyone.
From incredible breakout sessions to a dance party that'll have you jumping out your seats and showing us your best moves, this event will have it all.
And hey, did we mention the food? Delicious bites and refreshing drinks to keep you fueled up and ready to conquer the world.
So what are you waiting for? Grab your ticket, bring your sparkle, let's make some magic happen at the Start Here Conference.
And now back to the show.
Mm, such a good question. And in many ways, because we can think about community in different ways. Like we can think about community in our aerial dance community. And I think about bringing together dancers and circus performers and have done shared stage shows where like both can come together and then our audience can come and appreciate both of them and enjoy both aspects. And then community, I feel like can reach so much bigger too. As you know, I'm a victim of the Marshall Fire and lost my house in 2021. And we just moved back home a few months ago, but the community throughout all of that has been just incredible to connect with. And I think when it comes to aerial dance, I had a piece that I had choreographed for our first virtual show called Together.
Oh, wow.
And we were all in these white skirts, and it was choreographed during COVID and was about coming together during COVID, even though we were apart. But still, everybody banded together. People were howling at 8 o'clock every night, for our healthcare workers and things like that. So that's what the piece is about. And then it kind of took on this whole new meaning after the fire happened. So that was something that like I shared on like the fire forums, because for me it brought comfort to watch that, because it felt like, yeah, that's what the community is doing right now, is they're coming together, they're lifting each other up, and we're going to pick up and we're going to rebuild and we're going to come back stronger.
Mm.
Yeah.
I love that. I think it's more that piece to really that togetherness, even though it was like during COVID, but after the fire had happened and everything you had been through individually, as a family, community, everything along those lines, and being able to watch a performance that really just can move you. Because I feel like that's what, like when I view dance, I'm just like, oh my gosh, like outside of the talent, but just the story that's being told, and you can like feel that energy.
Absolutely. I feel like art is about making people feel something and feel connected and feel seen. Like, oh, I feel that too. Like, feel validated.
Yes, because everyone's going to have a different perception, but it's looking at a different lens and experiencing it. Whatever comes up, it's totally valid, but just experiencing that piece, I'm sure, moves so many communities around the world because it was virtual, but also right here in the community for you as well, and just your
Mm-hmm.
family and friends, and
Mm-hmm.
really feeling that heart with it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
All
Absolutely.
things. And kind of switching gears for a second,
Mhm.
I'm really curious because when I was reading all your website, everything else, I was kind of like looking at stuff and I saw Ariel bartending. Could you
Yeah.
elaborate what that is and the significance within your company? Please.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That was actually kind of one of my other thoughts about community. Because what's better than coming together and having a glass of champagne? I mean, really. So, aerial bartending is one of the services we offer for our corporate and private events that we can be hired to do. So, we will bring whatever apparatus, well, not whatever apparatus, within reason, but typically our lira is great, our trapeze is great for bartending, and we will pour champagne or a beverage of your choosing from the sky to all of your party guests. And I've done it at a few handful of parties, and it's always very memorable and eye-catching, and people get very excited. So if you're thinking about having an event, wedding, or other type of party, yeah, it's something to think about. It really kind of will put a little extra pizzazz and be very memorable. Yeah.
Oh man, I missed the boat. I wish I knew you like a year ago for my wedding. No, that's
Mhm.
amazing. And I love the creativity because there's so many different elements that you offer. It's not just the dance piece, but just bringing the community, having virtual classes, doing all the things that you do. I'm really curious, how do you balance that creativity and just building your business, managing in the wings?
It's really difficult too, because I'm still working as a nurse part-time. So calendars. I have everything on a calendar and I have to-do lists to make sure like things aren't getting missing, because we do have our performances that we're working on. We have events that we do when we get hired for them. And then also we have ongoing classes that we teach. In addition to that, we'll teach private parties like a bachelorette party if you and your 7 bridesmaids want to come and have an aerial lesson before you go out for the night, or birthday parties, kids' birthday parties we do as well. So balancing all that, yeah, to-do lists and calendars. Otherwise, things don't happen and they don't get done.
Oh, I believe it. That I live to a T with my calendar. If it's not on there, it doesn't happen. Even like
Mhm.
taking a break, it's like on the calendar. It can
Exactly.
morph, of course, but I'm curious because I know you probably use a lot of tools on the back end, calendars being one. Is there a tool in
Mhm.
particular that has really helped you maintain everything? Would you say it's calendars or would you say it's something else, or to-do lists? I mean?
Yeah, I think for me, like the thing that helps me the most with my neurospicy brain is a to-do list that I made myself that I can just kind of check off and keep track of, and that I can always go back to if I get distracted by something else. Also, just for my business, I use Squarespace for our website and for our scheduling for our classes. And I like that it's integrated. I actually have a call with them tomorrow. They're like updating things and they wanted feedback. And I was like, sure, because I have feedback. Um,
Like, how much time do you have?
yeah, exactly. Because it works well, but it's not perfect for like what we do, but it was like one of the best options. So I was like, yeah, but that one's worked pretty well for me too. And then, yeah, I'm trying to think of other things I use. MailChimp for our newsletters, because, arts in the US don't tend to make a lot of money, especially in the beginning. I look for things that are cheap or free. And and
Yes.
then if they work well, then bonus.
When they all come together, it's just like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
And just even like speaking of how the integration of everything, and especially starting out, we're always looking for cheap ways to do things or things that are free. What advice would you give aspiring entrepreneurs that are starting in this journey, whether they're transitioning from their 9 to 5 or just really starting?
I think the biggest piece of advice I can give is believe in yourself and don't believe the outside voices when they say you can't do it or it's not the smart thing or it's not the best thing or all of those voices. I feel like I've spent several years battling that. And I've finally, in the last year or two, have said, you know what? Screw that. Like, I know what I have is special. I know what I have to offer is good. And people will see that eventually. And if you stick to your vision and why you started doing what you were doing, people start seeing it and they notice it. And let the haters hate.
Yes, you're so spot on. And I think in the arts world, that does get a bad rap of like, well, you can't make money from it, or what if you get injured, or all the things that come up when it comes to the arts. I was actually just watching on Netflix, I was like binge watching All American. I don't know if you've seen it. It's like high school football to college, whatever. But the brothers, one is really good at football, the other one's really good at art. And like one of the teachers basically told the younger one that's in the arts, like he's really phenomenal at drawing and everything. He's like, you're not going to really get out of South Crenshaw if you like continue to do art, but there's no money in it, especially here. And his brother, the football brother, like talked to him about it. And it was just, they were able to collaborate and make that known that no matter what you want to do, if you set your mind to something, you can achieve it. And I think it's sometimes people trying to protect others of, well, because of their own insecurities or projection of what they think versus looking outside the box. So I'm so glad you're saying, like, don't listen to the outside noise, focus in on what you want to accomplish, because you're living proof of that right now, and everything that you've accomplished and will continue to accomplish in that capacity. So I think it's important to recognize, because I do believe that you are making such an impact in this world and moving people in so many different ways through dance. But I'm curious, what impact do you hope to make through your work in the wings, both locally and beyond?
Mm. My passion is in the shows. So, I mean, I want to make like productions that move people, that connect with the audience, that they leave feeling something. And it may be different every time. May not always be a happy feeling, but a lot of times we do fun shows that we enjoy doing also. Yeah, and I think like eventually one day I'd like to have traveling shows like that go beyond our little Denver metro area and travel the world with them and you know and make money doing it.
That's a big kicker, right? We need the
Yeah,
capital.
yeah.
Let's start
Yeah.
spiritual.
Yeah. And I do love like teaching and passing it on too. So I hope that side of the business also continues to grow with our student base, and you know that we have lots of teachers that can help share their knowledge as well. Yeah. And continue to do the fun events too, because who doesn't love pouring champagne? People get so excited.
It's such a thing. It's an art, literally. No
Yeah,
pun
so I
intended.
see it like having several branches.
Oh my gosh, I see it. I feel it. And just even looking ahead, because I know you kind of talked about the goals and aspirations, but what do you see the future of aerial dance? Because it's still like newer. People know about it, but not so much, especially outside of the dance world. But what do
Mhm.
you foresee that looking like outside of the shows and being international?
Yeah, I hope that it becomes more of an accepted art form. I feel like I'm not circus enough to be part of the circus people, and I'm not dance enough to be part of the dance people. And I hope that, you know, eventually it becomes more accepted in that, and that like we're our own little niche genre, and that there's space for everyone and everybody's art. And it's okay that we don't fit in either of those boxes.
Yes,
Hmm.
absolutely. I think that's so spot on. I mean, that's why I even started not the YouTube channel, but the podcast, was to show that there's room for everybody to grow and thrive, because we all have something unique to offer. Even if you're in the same industry, your delivery is different, your background's different, how you got there is different, and being able to really facilitate that. And I think it's just bringing more awareness to something that is a little different, but it's merging the two. I mean, people thought shopping online was like crazy 20, 30, 40 years ago.
Mhm.
But now people like don't even want to go to the mall. So it's just,
Right.
it's like evolution of what's happening. And I'm sure in the near future, people will start to accept it and start to understand it a little bit better. Because what do you think the biggest misconception is about aerial dance?
I think that when they hear aerial dance, they think that we're not doing like the hard skills that like Cirque du Soleil is doing or that New York City Ballet is doing. But I have people in my company that do both of those things or do one or the other. And then we highlight each dancer's skills. So I feel like the misconception is that we're just kind of like hanging around, rolling around, and swinging around on stage and that it's not hard. But in fact, it's twice as hard
Wow.
because we have to learn both.
Oh, I believe it. Like I've just seen it. I've never experienced it. I definitely need to take a class, but it's just, it looks challenging. And again, it goes back to everybody's skill set is different and playing to that. And doesn't matter what your background is, you can come together and really just create community. And you're doing that right here as well as virtually too. And we'll
Mhm, mhm. Yeah.
And before we go, I just want to know, what is the most important thing for people to know about you, about In the Wings, and what you are creating in this world?
Mm, that everyone's always welcome, any walk of life, where no matter what, and that there's always some space for you in the wings, whether that be as an audience member or as a student or as someone who hires us to perform at their beautiful party. There's always space for everybody.
Just the inclusivity of what you've created and will continue to transpire in every place that you touch. But I so appreciate you coming on today, Fallon. Where can people find you, find all your events coming up? We're going to link everything below.
Yeah. Everything is In the Wings Aerial. So website is In the Wings Aerial, Facebook at In the Wings Aerial, Instagram at In the Wings Aerial, all of it
All the
at In the
things.
Wings Aerial.
Get in the wings. Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Fallon, for coming on, just sharing your journey, how the ups and downs, everything in between of your experience. But I so appreciate you coming on today and just sharing your journey with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment below what was the biggest takeaway from Fallon today. I'm sure she would love to see that comment, and we'll see you on the next episode.